Long before the Portuguese or the British mapped their transoceanic empires, a South Indian dynasty had already engineered a blue-water maritime superpower. In the 11th century, the global economy was anchored by two massive markets, the Abbasid Caliphate in the west and the Song dynasty in the east. Connecting these two economic titans required navigating the vast expanse between them. The geographic center of this trade was here, the Kaveri River Delta in South India. From this specific delta, a massive maritime web radiated outward. The Cholas transformed the Bay of Bengal into a tightly controlled territory, effectively creating a Chola lake. This dominance relied on a precise synthesis of advanced shipbuilding, state-backed merchant capital, and a strategic doctrine centered on oceanic control. To understand how the Cholas achieved this, we must deconstruct their empire, not as a traditional land-based kingdom, but as a maritime machine built from first principles. This machine required a specific economic foundation, built within industrial port cities like Kavaripatnam. The state relied on transnational merchant syndicates, specifically the Ayavole 500. These guilds acted as financial powerhouses and vast intelligence networks across the Indian Ocean. These syndicates funneled private capital directly into state-run shipyards. This capital built the Madakalam, multi-masted timber ships designed for transoceanic voyages. While Europeans relied on rigid, nailed planks, Chola engineers utilized sewn timber technology. By binding interlocking timber planks with specialized stitching, the hull could flex to absorb the kinetic energy of heavy ocean swells. These flexible designs improved deep-sea endurance and expanded heavy cargo limits, allowing a single vessel to transport massive payloads over thousands of kilometers. These vessels were built to transport dense, high-value luxury goods. Among the most prized exports were intricately cast bronze sculptures, like this Chola Nataraja. The pairing of guild financing and shock-absorbing hulls elevated the Cholas from regional coastal traders into transnational logistical operators. Robust ships are useless if you cannot navigate thousands of kilometers of featureless open ocean without a modern compass. Effective navigation required mastering the Indian Ocean's monsoon wind currents. Chola navigators calculated precise seasonal wind shifts to ride these weather systems across the sea. Their command of nautical astronomy is detailed in texts like the Kapal Satiram, which outlines mathematical models for ocean navigation used centuries before European contact. Specialized ship crews utilized solar and lunar observations. By measuring the angles of celestial bodies against the horizon, they could calculate their exact latitude at sea. Calculating latitude allowed them to abandon slow, dangerous coastal-hugging routes in favor of direct, open-water crossings that slashed travel times. This combination of celestial navigation and monsoon forecasting made transoceanic supply chains reliable, enabling the projection of power on an international scale. This maritime system eventually faced a critical external threat, the Srivijaya Empire in Southeast Asia. Srivijaya controlled the Malacca Strait, the narrow waterway that bottlenecks all maritime trade traveling to China. Srivijayan authorities used this position to extort tolls from Tamil merchant guilds, forcing passing vessels into their ports and threatening the Chola economic engine. In 1025 CE, Rajendra Chola I orchestrated a transoceanic amphibious assault to break the Srivijayan monopoly. The operation required transporting thousands of troops, supplies, and war animals across 3,000 kilometers of open ocean without breaking formation. The Cholas deployed a decoy squadron straight north toward the Malacca Strait, causing Srivijayan defenses to scramble. With defenses drawn north, the primary Chola fleet bypassed the choke point, hooking south through the Sunda Strait to hit the Srivijayan capital from its unprotected blindside. The 1025 strike moved the objective from territorial conquest to the active enforcement of navigation rights. It was a military intervention designed to secure a global supply chain. Following the strike, the Malacca Strait opened. Tamil economic networks expanded into Southeast Asia, dominating regional trade for nearly a century. This expansion returned immense wealth to the empire, funding architectural projects like the Brihadiswarar Temple in Tanjavur. However, maintaining this blue water presence introduced a systemic financial burden. Sustaining an expeditionary fleet over such distances required continuous maintenance and massive professional crews. Because the Cholas lacked a dedicated standing navy, they relied on pressing merchant vessels into service, effectively pulling productive assets out of the economy to perform military duties. Over decades, the cost of protecting these distant trade routes outpaced the revenue they generated. This constant military overhead drained the imperial treasury. To sustain the maritime machine, the state resorted to currency debasement, weakening the empire's internal economic stability. This fiscal drain left the Chola mainland vulnerable. As resources were focused on the sea, land-based rivals like the Pandya dynasty launched an invasion of the weakened Chola heartland. Facing an existential threat at home, the Cholas were forced to pivot their military back to the continent, abandoning their transoceanic trade routes. Their withdrawal created a power vacuum in the Indian Ocean, which was eventually occupied by Arab and European trading fleets. The rise and fall of the Chola Navy demonstrates that maritime supremacy requires a delicate balance of technology, capital, and mainland security, a strategic logic that continues to define the modern Indo-Pacific.